They told me to keep my opinions to myself right after they used my money to pay for lobster risotto and a 7-tier wedding cake I wouldn't even be served. I was sitting on the edge of the living room couch, clutching a mug I'd microwaved 3 times, but never managed to drink. Brooke, my granddaughter, stood across from me in her silky workout set, her mouth tight. I had just asked why the bank statement showed a $3,800 charge to Golden Magnolia events. She looked at me like I'd broken a rule by even seeing it. "You said it was for family," she snapped, snatching the statement from my lap. "And this is family. Stop acting like it's your business." I opened my mouth, gently. "Sweetheart, it is my business. That's my savings account. You don't even use that money. You sit here, reading your old books, and complain when I try to build a life. Just keep your opinions to yourself, please." Then she turned her back and walked away. That was the moment. Not when they first moved me in. Not when my things started disappearing from the guest room. Not when Jordan, her fiancé, called me old lady instead of Nana. No. The moment came when she looked at me like I was in the way, like I was the mess on her white rug. And so I stood up, put down the cold mug, and walked upstairs. The house creaked beneath me. My knees creaked louder. I opened the small chest where I kept my papers: marriage certificate, will, and a letter from my late husband, Ben. At the bottom, the bank account numbers, the ones I had merged with theirs, the ones that now apparently paid for party planners and floral arches. They wanted me quiet. So I decided to speak the only language they still listened to. I packed my bag that night. The documents came with me. And the next morning, before the sun had fully come up, I was standing in front of the bank teller with one simple request. I'd like to freeze all joint withdrawals, effective immediately. And when the card declined at their cake tasting later that day, that wasn't an accident. That was me, finally speaking up, quietly, permanently. Ben died in his sleep on a Thursday morning, and by Sunday afternoon, Brooke was on the phone asking if I wanted to move in. "It'll be easier for you, Nana," she said, voice syrupy with concern. "You shouldn't be alone in that big house." She meant the farmhouse, the one Ben and I bought when we were just 34, when interest rates were a nightmare and the roof leaked in 3 places. We raised 3 kids in that drafty thing. We buried 2 dogs in the yard. I still knew which floorboards creaked and which cabinet door stuck on humid days. But when Brooke said the words alone and easier, something in me softened. She didn't say it outright, but I could tell she was offering to take care of me. So I sold the farm. I didn't want to, not really. But the upkeep was getting too hard, and the money would help with things. Doctor visits, the new glasses I kept putting off, maybe even one last trip somewhere warm. We opened a joint account. "It'll make things simpler," she said, smiling. "Just in case anything ever happens, you know." I nodded. I didn't think much of it. Families do that. The first few weeks were kind. Brooke made tea in the evenings. Jordan called me Nana and offered to carry my bags from the car. I thought, maybe this was the next chapter. Slower, yes, but softer. Then little things began to shift. My robe went missing from the bathroom. The tea I liked was replaced with a fancier brand that tasted like perfume. My slippers were moved to the garage. "They smell weird," Brooke had said. It was death by 1,000 adjustments. One morning, I came into the kitchen and found Jordan on the phone. He was talking to a caterer. "Full buffet," he said. "Yeah, she's paying for it, so might as well do it right." She, as in me. I stood very still behind the doorframe. He hadn't noticed me. He was smiling, casual, like it was all a given. I didn't say a word. Not then. Not yet. That night, I lay in the guest bed, too soft, too floral, not mine, and stared at the ceiling, thinking about the difference between being included and being used. It's a difference you feel in your bones, and mine were beginning to ache. Somewhere between Brooke's new espresso machine and the custom welcome signs for the wedding guests, I became invisible. It wasn't sudden. That's the thing. They don't take you out of the frame all at once. They crop you slowly. One polite smile less, one ignored opinion, one request to knock before entering their kitchen. It starts with a forgotten greeting and ends with you whispering, "Good morning," to yourself because no one else bothers to. By the third month, the guest room no longer felt like mine. My books were packed into a bin in the closet to make space. My lotions were replaced by branded serums I didn't recognize. The Afghan I crocheted during Ben's chemo was folded into a storage ottoman for staging purposes when a wedding planner came by to preview the house. The air in the house changed too, smelled like eucalyptus candles and tension. Brooke was on edge constantly, snapping about colour palettes and floral arrangements, biting at Jordan when the RSVP list got too long. And when she got tired of biting him, she turned to me. "Nana, could you please not leave your knitting on the armchair? It throws off the living room vibe." "Nana, we're trying to keep the place presentable. Maybe no breakfast toast at the counter?" "Nana, your shoes. Could you put them in your room? We're having people over." Always, Nana, never Grandma. Like I was a brand she could design around. I obeyed, quietly. That's what women like me are taught. Keep the peace, stay useful, disappear politely. One evening, I made chicken stew, the kind Ben used to call a cure in a bowl. Slow cooked, full of thyme, with fresh rolls I baked myself. I set the table, lit candles, thought maybe we could eat like a family again. Brooke walked in from a dress fitting, heels in hand, face flushed with irritation. "Smells heavy," she said. "We're trying to eat lighter for the photos." She didn't touch her plate. Jordan picked at the bread, said nothing. They both ate cereal an hour later. I cleared the table alone. Later that night, I heard them whispering in their room. The walls are thin. I wasn't trying to listen, but when your name comes up, you don't need effort. You just hear it. "She means well," Jordan said, barely above a breath. "I know," Brooke replied, "but she's always there, and she's starting to get judgy." A pause. "I feel like I'm babysitting my grandmother instead of planning my wedding." He didn't argue, and that was the moment I realized they didn't see me as part of the home. I was background noise, a soft, shuffling inconvenience with a bank account. Useful, until I wasn't. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, like I had after Ben died, only colder. Then I got up, made tea, sat on the porch until morning. The air was sharp but honest out there. I didn't cry. Not yet. But I stopped trying after that, stopped baking, stopped setting the table, stopped leaving my door open. If I was to be invisible, I'd learn to be quiet in a way they'd regret, and soon they would. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, ordinary in every way, which is how cruelty usually arrives. Quiet, dressed as casual conversation. I was sitting on the porch, watching the neighbor's cat try to catch a moth, when Brooke stepped out with her phone in one hand and a glass of cucumber water in the other. She looked fresh from a shower, her face dewy in that way women pay money to achieve. I, on the other hand, was in my cardigan from 1996 and my slippers that didn't match. She didn't sit down, just stood there, staring at me like I was something she needed to return to the store. "I talked to Dad," she said. No greeting. "He thinks maybe it's time you considered, a care facility." or assisted living. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, carefully. A care facility, I repeated, voice steady. I mean, it's not like permanent, she continued, faltering for a second. It's just, you've seemed a little off lately. Off, I echoed. Well, you're quiet. You sleep a lot. You don't contribute. And the wedding's getting stressful. Jordan and I need space to focus. There it was, not even wrapped in guilt, just handed to me like a bill I hadn't asked for. I set my tea down gently, folded my hands in my lap. You want to move me out of the house I helped pay for? She blinked, clearly irritated that I had dared to make it sound like a transaction. You gave that money freely. You said it was for all of us. I did. I also said I'd like to be consulted about how it's used. Her expression changed then. It sharpened. It's not like you were going to do anything with it. You said yourself. You're too old for travel. You don't need anything. I need dignity, I said, still calm, and respect, and a chair at the wedding I helped pay for. That's when she laughed, a short, incredulous puff of air. Oh my God, Nana, it's not about you. This is my wedding. You don't get to dictate who gets invited just because you chipped in. Chipped in. As though she hadn't drained $42,000 of my life savings in 8 months. I looked at her and saw for the first time not the girl I once fed spoonfuls of apple puree or carried on my hip while Ben made her giggle with sock puppets. I saw a woman who thought love meant access and help meant ownership. Keep your opinions to yourself, she added, softer this time. Please, don't make this harder than it has to be. She turned and went inside. I stayed on the porch until the light faded, until the moth was gone and the cat had given up and gone home. My tea went cold. My hands didn't tremble, though my heart ached in that old, familiar way, like grief wearing new shoes. She wanted my silence. She would get it, but not the way she imagined. I waited until they were both gone. Brooke at her final dress fitting, Jordan off to pick up his custom-tailored suit. The house was quiet, smug in its curated stillness. It smelled like vanilla candles and new paint. I walked to the office, the small one near the laundry room where they kept non-urgent paperwork. Brooke once told me not to bother with the files. Too complicated, Nana. Let us handle the adult stuff. I opened the drawer anyway. The lock wasn't even engaged. Inside, neatly labelled in Brooke's loopy cursive, venue, florals, photographer, cake, catering. All with invoices, all marked paid. My eyes scanned them slowly, tracing line after line of dollar signs and company names. Golden Magnolia Events, $3,800 Sugarleaf Bakery, custom tiered cake. $200 Aurum Photography. Deposit $1,500 Bliss and Vine Florals. $6,400 Oak Ridge Estate rental fee. $1,100. And next to each line in Brooke's handwriting, 2 initials. MD, Margaret Dean. Me. I didn't cry. I didn't gasp. I just stood there, as if my feet had grown roots right into the hardwood floor. They weren't just taking money. They were signing my name to it. That night, after they came home giddy with progress and champagne breath, I made dinner. Shrimp, linguine. Brooke didn't touch hers. Too many carbs. Jordan finished half a plate, then left the rest in the sink, unwashed. As I scrubbed the pan in silence, I knew what I needed to do. The next morning, I put on real clothes, slacks, and a blouse I used to wear to church. I found my good shoes, the ones with the sturdy sole and the soft lining Ben bought for me after my hip surgery. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to. They wouldn't notice I was gone until lunch. I walked into the bank where I had opened that joint account last year. The young teller smiled politely, probably saw me as someone who wanted help with a password. I need to speak to a manager, I said. My voice was firm. About my accounts. All of them. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in a small office with a woman named Tricia. She had kind eyes and a wedding band so thin it looked like a thread. "How can I help, Mrs. Dean?" she asked. I opened my folder, neatly compiled bank statements, copies of invoices with my initials, and a letter Ben wrote me in 2009 when he was still well, reminding me, "Never let anyone tell you you're not in charge of your own money." I want to remove both secondary users from every account. I want to transfer all remaining funds into a private account under my sole name. I want all previous account numbers closed. Tricia blinked. "Yes, Ma'am," she said softly. "May I ask? Are you safe?" I looked at her, and for a moment I almost lied, but then I shook my head. "Not unsafe, just done." The process took an hour. I signed page after page, my pen steady, not one tremor. At the end, Tricia handed me a new debit card. Just one. No backup users, no linked accounts. "You should get an alert if anyone tries to access the closed accounts," she said. "But legally, they can't." I nodded. That afternoon, I stopped at the library and used the public computer to check my email, the one Brooke never bothered to ask if I had. I created a new login for online banking, changed every password I'd ever shared. When I got home, the house was empty again. I made tea, quietly, as if it were any other day, and I waited. That evening, from the kitchen, I heard it, the soft ding of a phone, Brooke's voice rising. "What do you mean declined?" Pause. No, that's impossible. Run it again." Another pause. Louder now. "There's a limit? That's not right. It's our account. Margaret's she's... Just run it again." Jordan's voice joined in, low and tense. Then another ding, another decline. They were trying to pay the florist, and the florist wasn't listening anymore. But I was. From my seat by the window, tea in hand, I listened to them panic. And for the first time in months, I smiled. They wanted my silence. They got it. Right after I took back everything they mistook for theirs. The next morning, Brooke didn't speak to me, not with words. She let the slamming of the pantry door, the angry clatter of her smoothie blender, and the way she knocked over my mail on the counter do all the talking. Jordan offered a half-hearted "morning," but wouldn't meet my eyes. He poured himself coffee and walked out without waiting for it to finish brewing. I sat at the breakfast table in my usual spot, sipped my tea. The same spot I'd been sitting in the day I signed that first check. The day I handed over access, just to make things easier. For whom? By noon, Brooke finally spoke. "Did you do something to the accounts?" she asked, arms folded, face tight. I didn't respond right away. I reached over, tore a corner from the newspaper, folded it neatly, then looked up. "Yes," I said. "I did." She blinked, taken aback. Not by the words, but by the fact that I'd said them so plainly. "What do you mean?" she demanded, like a customer speaking to a barista who spelled her name wrong. "I mean, I took back control," I said. "Of what's mine?" "You had no right." I tilted my head. "Did you have the right to spend 40,000 without telling me? To sign my initials on vendor agreements? To use my money for a party I wasn't even invited to?" Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. A flush crept up her cheeks. "You said it was for family," she snapped, recovering quickly. "You said you wanted to help." "I did," I said. "I helped, but I never said I wanted to be erased." That landed. I saw it in the way her shoulders stiffened. "I can't believe you'd do this to me," she said, like I had betrayed her. like I was the one who had taken something I didn't earn. I stood. My hands were calm, my voice calmer. No, Brooke, I can't believe you thought I wouldn't. She left the room. Later that evening, I overheard Jordan on the phone. He was in the backyard, pacing near the hydrangeas I planted last spring, saying words like emergency loan and last-minute financing. His voice was tight, tired. And suddenly, I realized something. They were terrified, not just because they'd lost the money, but because they'd never considered I had a spine beneath my soft sweaters and slow steps. They saw the wrinkles but forgot what they meant. Everyone earned in survival. Everyone a map. That night, Brooke tried again. Knocked once on my door, opened it without waiting. "Nana," she said, "let's not make this ugly. We'll pay you back." "You won't," I said. "And that's fine. I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you doing?" she asked, genuinely confused. "What do you want?" "I want space," I said. "I want air. I want to exist in my own story again." She stared, like I'd spoken a language she hadn't learned in school. And maybe I had, because women like me speak in sacrifice, in silence, in giving until there's nothing left to give. Until one day, we don't. "You can't just leave," she said, voice rising. "Why not?" I asked. "You suggested it. A care home, wasn't it? Maybe I'll pick one, with locks on the inside of the doors this time." She left again, slammed the door. I didn't flinch, because when someone slams the door on you for the last time, it doesn't echo, it just closes, and I was already packing. I didn't pack like someone running. I packed like someone remembering. The suitcase came down from the attic, hard shell, navy blue, wheels that stuck if you turned too sharp. The kind Ben insisted we keep, just in case we ever fly somewhere again. We never did, but the suitcase waited anyway. I opened the closet and chose deliberately, not out of sentiment, but function. 2 cardigans, one light, one heavy, a blouse that didn't wrinkle, my best slacks, the walking shoes that had seen more kindness than my own family in the past year. I placed my rosary beside my reading glasses, folded the letter from Ben, the one he wrote when he was too sick to speak, but still needed me to know. "Don't let the world steal your softness. It's the rarest thing you have." And then, beneath it all, I tucked the file folder, the one now holding every legal document that said plainly, undeniably, the money was mine. The account was mine. The choice, mine. I didn't leave a note. Not yet. Instead, I made one last call. "Tricia, it's Margaret Dean. I'd like to schedule a withdrawal." She paused, polite but curious. "Of what amount?" "All of it," I said. She didn't ask why. The next morning, I walked into the branch and sat across from her. She greeted me with tea, mint, bless her, and a small smile. "I've transferred the full balance to your new account," she said. "And just as you asked, it's under a new ID, fully private. Nothing linked. Nothing shared." I signed the papers with a hand that didn't tremble. Before I left, she added, "Most people your age don't do this." "I'm not most people," I said, "and I'm not their backup plan." That night, I returned to the house for the last time. I let myself in quietly. Brooke and Jordan were out. Some last-minute meeting with the planner, I assumed, trying to figure out how to pay for a wedding without the woman they'd drained. I made myself a cup of tea, sat at the kitchen table, the same table I'd wiped clean after every meal they never thanked me for. And then I wrote. A simple note, folded once. "Brooke, I won't stay in a house where my silence is more welcome than my voice. I gave freely, and you took recklessly. I have nothing left to offer, except this final act. I'm leaving before I forget who I am." Margaret. I placed it under the salt shaker. Then I picked up my suitcase, opened the door, and stepped out into the night. No drama, no parting words, just the quiet creak of the door closing behind me. As I walked down the sidewalk, the night smelled like damp pavement and dogwood blossoms. Freedom has a scent, and it's sharper than you'd think. I didn't have a destination yet, but I knew exactly what I was leaving behind. The motel didn't ask questions. That's why I chose it. No forms beyond the basics, no suspicious glances at the old woman wheeling a single suitcase through the glass door at dusk. "Nightly or weekly?" the clerk asked, eyes not lifting from the logbook. "Weekly," I replied. "Maybe longer." The room smelled faintly of bleach and dust, the kind of clean that scrubs away identity. A single bed, a small fridge, a window that overlooked the parking lot. Still, it was mine. No one told me where to put my shoes. No one complained about my toast. No one monitored my opinions like they were noise pollution. I unpacked slowly, slipped my slippers on, made tea with a portable kettle I picked up at the Walgreens next door. And I sat by the window, watching the orange haze of streetlights coat the hoods of quiet cars. Back at the house, I imagined the panic had started. I pictured Brooke at the florist's counter, handing over her platinum card, expecting smoothness. And then, decline. She'd try another card. Jordan's, maybe. Or mine, the one they assumed still worked. But of course it wouldn't, because Trisha had closed that account entirely. And the new one, they'd never touch it. I pictured Brooke's expression turning sharp, then scared. She'd step outside, dial the bank, press 0 for a live person. She'd demand explanations, demand corrections. And the bank would tell her, as kindly and formally as possible, that Margaret Dean had moved her funds and revoked all joint access. Independently, irrevocably, they would learn that I had not simply left, I had exited the script. The calls began that night. First Brooke, then Jordan, then again and again. I watched the phone ring on the nightstand. I didn't pick up. They didn't leave voicemails. Not at first. I think they assumed I'd call back, that I'd feel guilty, that maybe I'd done it in a fit of emotion and would soon return, apologetic. But I wasn't sorry. I was resting. By the third day, I had a new phone number. I emailed Trisha to update my banking details. I contacted an old friend, Connie, who ran a legal clinic in town. We hadn't spoken in years, but when I said I needed help finding property listings and an attorney to file a quitclaim deed, she didn't ask questions. Just said, "Come by tomorrow. We'll talk." On the fourth day, Jessica called. Jessica Tran, realtor. She had helped one of my book club friends sell her condo last year. Said she was young, but not stupid. That was recommendation enough. "I want something modest," I told her. "No bells, just roots. And I want to buy it in cash." She hesitated, probably thinking I was the kind of old woman who'd get swindled. "I'm not looking for pity," I added. "I'm looking for closure." Jessica understood. She offered to send listings by the hour. Meanwhile, the calls shifted in tone. Still no voicemails. But now the texts began. Brooke's name lit up the screen. "Where are you? We're worried. Did something happen? Is this about the bank? We can fix it. You're being unreasonable." And finally, "You're ruining everything." That one made me laugh. A short, bitter chuckle. As if the ruin hadn't started the moment she signed my name without asking. They'd finally hit that stage. The panic that follows entitlement. The slow, dawning realization that the hand they thought would always be extended had closed into a fist. I didn't respond. I didn't explain. I let the silence grow. Because sometimes silence isn't absence. It's an answer. That night, I watched TV for the first time in weeks. Not wedding shows, not budget planners, just a documentary about monarch butterflies and how they migrate thousands of miles to reclaim warmth. The narrator said, "They return not because they remember the exact place, but because they know what the right air feels like." I turned the volume down and let those words settle. I wasn't running. I was migrating. Back to something that felt like mine. Brooke's voice finally broke through on the 7th voicemail. I had returned from a quiet lunch, grilled cheese and tomato soup from the diner across the street, and saw the blinking light on the motel phone. I let it ring once more before pressing play. Her voice was brittle, stripped of its usual gloss. "Nana," she started, pausing like she wasn't sure if she had the right to call me that anymore. Please talk to me. I don't know what happened, but you're scaring me. Jordan's freaking out. The florist cancelled. The venue says we're in breach of contract. And now the photographer wants a deposit we don't have. Did you really close the accounts? Did you really take everything?" Her breath hitched, then quieter. "Are you okay? Can you just let me know you're okay?" I didn't call back. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the pull to comfort someone who had used my kindness as currency. Brooke hadn't just borrowed money. She'd rewritten me out of my own legacy, treated me like a line item in her budget, not a human being with memory and blood and dignity. And now that the card didn't swipe, she wanted conversation. No, I thought. Not this time. That evening, Jessica called with a property. "It's not fancy," she said, "but it's solid. Small cottage just outside town. The owner passed recently. It's going to auction, but the bank's desperate to offload it. If we move fast, you could own it outright before anyone blinks." She sent the pictures. A single-story house with a sloped roof, weathered shutters, a porch big enough for a rocking chair. The paint needed work, but the bones were there. It reminded me of the first place Ben and I rented after we married. Small, quiet, ours. "I'll take it," I said. Jessica paused. "Don't you want to see it first?" "No," I said. "I just need it to not belong to them." 2 days later, it was mine. Paid in full. No mortgage, no shared deed. Just a set of keys and a signed title in my name, and my name only. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post a forwarding address. I didn't call Brooke. Instead, I picked up the keys at Jessica's office and walked into my new house with both feet firm on the ground. It smelled like dust and something older, maybe lilac, trapped in old wood. The wallpaper was peeling. The floor creaked with uncertainty. But I ran my hand over the banister and whispered, "Hello." That night, I swept the porch. Not because it needed to be done, but because I wanted to. I slept on the floor, curled in a blanket, with the windows open and the night pressing in, gentle and unfamiliar. Back at the motel, I had left everything clean, sheets folded, trash out. The clerk handed me the bill without eye contact. I paid in cash. No forwarding address. When I stepped out onto the sidewalk with my suitcase and new keys in hand, I felt something odd, like walking out of someone else's skin. Like memory was folding itself neatly behind me, not erased, but stored. And the phone? It kept ringing. 17 missed calls that day. The last one came just before midnight. Brooke. No voicemail this time, just a single text. "Did you really leave us?" I didn't respond, because that's what they never understood. I never left them. They let me go a long time ago. They just didn't think I'd notice. The house came with peeling shutters, rusted doorknobs, and a lawn that had gone wild. But it also came with silence. And not the kind I'd grown used to, the biting silence of being ignored, but the real kind, peaceful, full of room. I spent the first week sleeping on a borrowed air mattress and heating soup on a portable burner. The furniture would come later. For now, I had what I needed: clean sheets, a lock on the door, and not a single person asking me to stay out of the kitchen. Each morning I swept the front steps, not because anyone would see, but because it felt like claiming something. The sound of the broom against old wood was a kind of music. Jessica stopped by midweek with a few documents to sign. She stood in the doorway, glancing around the half-empty rooms. "You sure you're okay here by yourself?" she asked. "I'm not by myself," I said. "I'm with myself. It's different." She nodded slowly. "Most people your age are looking for comfort." "I had comfort," I replied. Then I learned it was only convenient as long as I didn't ask questions. That evening, I moved the last of my things into the hallway closet: my books, my knitting bag, the photograph of Ben and me on our anniversary, framed in oak. I placed it on the windowsill, where the light touched gently in the afternoon. Then I turned off my phone. Brooke had not stopped trying. 26 missed calls, 8 voicemails, a new number, a blocked number, a text from Jordan. "She's not well. This is going too far." But was it? Too far was using someone's retirement fund without permission. Too far was erasing their presence while expecting their help. Too far was expecting love to mean silence. I wasn't being cruel. I was being clear. On the 8th night, I got up just before dawn, brewed a cup of tea, wrapped myself in Ben's old cardigan, and stepped outside. The grass was still damp, dew clinging to the edges. Across the street, a neighbor opened her blinds, stretched, and waved absently. I waved back. For the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel watched. I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel necessary. And that was its own kind of relief. They had needed me as long as I kept paying, as long as I kept quiet, as long as I didn't rock the boat. But I had finally stepped off the boat, and now I was building something that could float on its own. That afternoon, I bought a second-hand rocking chair off a local classifieds board. A man named Eddie delivered it in the back of his truck, helped me carry it to the porch, and refused payment beyond a glass of lemonade. "You remind me of my aunt," he said. "She raised 5 kids. Then they tried to tell her what she owed them." "What did she do?" He smiled. "Sold her house. Moved to Costa Rica. Never looked back." "Smart woman," I said. He nodded. "You too." After he left, I sat in the rocker and watched the sun slip behind the trees. The quiet wrapped around me like a quilt. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't even healing. I was simply returning to myself, and the sound of my own breathing in this small, slightly broken house felt more like home than any marble countertop ever had. It took 10 days for Brooke to find the house. I don't know how she did it. Maybe Jessica's name slipped. Maybe someone at the bank made a mistake. Or maybe she followed the trail the way a child follows crumbs they were never meant to notice. She didn't knock at first, just stood across the street, arms crossed, sunglasses too big for her face, like armor. Her hair was too perfect for a weekday afternoon. She looked like someone playing the role of a woman in control, but I saw the way her shoulders dipped. Eventually, she crossed. Didn't walk up the steps, just stood at the bottom. "Nana," she called, soft. I rocked gently in the chair. Didn't respond. "I just want to talk." Silence. "I know you're mad," she said. "I know I messed up." Still, I rocked. The sun filtered through the porch slats, carving quiet shadows across my lap. She finally climbed the steps and stood beside me. "I didn't think you'd actually leave," she said. "I thought you were just—" Upset. I was upset, I said, eyes on the street. Now I'm finished. Brooke sat on the edge of the steps, like a child again. I didn't look at her, but I heard the strain in her voice. We had to cancel the wedding, she said. The venue pulled out. The vendors kept the deposits. Jordan's furious. He says I should have handled it better. He's not wrong, I said. She flinched. The kind of flinch that says she's used to people folding when she gets emotional. I didn't mean to use you, but you did. I thought you wanted to help. I did, I said, finally turning to look at her. I wanted to help, but not be erased, not be used like an ATM with a heartbeat. Her eyes shimmered. I didn't know how to fix it. You don't, I said. That's the thing. Some things don't get fixed. They get remembered. We sat in silence for a while. The wind brushed through the trees. Somewhere down the block, a child laughed. Then she asked the question she came for. Can I come in? No. But just to talk? Just to… No. Her mouth opened, closed. I'm not trying to hurt you, she said. I know, I said. You already did. But you didn't try not to either. She stood slowly. I miss you. I miss the girl who used to sit at my kitchen table and tell me her dreams, I said. But I don't know the woman who forged my name. Brooke didn't cry. She was too proud for that. Instead, she nodded, just once, and turned to leave. At the bottom of the steps, she stopped. Will you ever forgive me? Forgiveness doesn't mean access, I said. I don't hate you, but I'm no longer offering myself up to be taken. She hesitated, looked like she wanted to say something more, then walked back to her car. I didn't watch her drive away. I watched the leaves move on the trees, the way the light changed at the edge of the porch. I sipped my tea, and I rocked, because peace doesn't always come with a hug. Sometimes it comes with a locked door and a quiet no. And sometimes that's love too. The days that followed were quiet, in a way I hadn't known since before Ben died. Not the silence of resentment, or the hush that follows slammed doors, but the kind that exists in a life where no one expects you to shrink to fit their comfort. The kind that fills a house when it no longer apologizes for its creaks and chipped paint. I began to settle into the little cottage, painted the walls a soft cream, just enough to cover the past, but not erase it. I planted basil and rosemary and chipped teacups on the windowsill. Every morning, I opened the curtains wide and let the sun touch every surface of my new beginning. The phone stayed off. I got mail now, real mail, catalogues I didn't order, flyers from the local diner, a handwritten card from Connie, the one who helped me get the deed in order. It read, "You didn't just leave. You arrived. Proud of you." One afternoon, I baked a peach cobbler and took it to the widow 2 doors down, a woman named Nadine, who spoke in short, decisive sentences and never made eye contact. She took the dish without ceremony, sniffed it once, and said, "You put cinnamon in this?" "Yes," I said. "Good. Too many people skip it." The next day, she brought over a bag of green beans. We didn't call it friendship. We didn't need to. Still, I felt something stir in me, something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not regret, not even relief, but something simpler. Room. Room to breathe, to exist, to not perform usefulness, to not justify my place at the table. It was in that room that I finally allowed myself to feel the full truth. I had been disposable to them, convenient until inconvenient, generous until assertive. Loved, perhaps, but only within their terms. And I had broken those terms. One afternoon, I found an envelope at the base of the mailbox, slid in without postage. It was a letter. From Brooke. She wrote in her neat, rounded handwriting, The same script I'd taught her when she was 6 and thought cursive looked like grown-up secrets. Nana, I don't know how to undo what I did. I'm not even sure I understand all of it. But I feel like I lost you in a way that's deeper than I expected. We moved into a rental. The wedding's postponed indefinitely. Jordan says I'm different now. Maybe I am. I thought money solved things. I thought proximity meant connection. I thought I was doing what families do. But you didn't need fixing. You needed respect. I see that now. I think I always did, but I didn't value it until you disappeared. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know. I hear you now. Brooke. I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer with a few others. Old postcards, recipes in Ben's handwriting, a birthday card from a neighbor child who once asked if I was Santa's mum. I didn't reply, not out of malice, but because hearing me now didn't erase the years she chose not to. Besides, she hadn't asked how I was. She had spoken only of herself. It's a habit, I realized. Some people grieve not the person they hurt, but the version of themselves they can no longer live with. I left the letter where it belonged, in the past. The next morning, I baked another cobbler. This one I ate myself, warm with a spoon straight from the dish, sitting on the back steps, watching the wind stir the garden. I was no longer anyone's extra plate. I was my own table. Spring turned to summer quietly, like a curtain drawing itself open without fanfare. My days took on a gentle rhythm. Morning tea, afternoon walks, evening radio humming low in the background. There was no dramatic transformation, no grand reinvention, just peace, just me. One Sunday morning, I opened the screen door to find a car idling at the curb, not sleek or new, just tired, familiar. The door opened and Jordan stepped out, alone. His suit jacket was wrinkled, his tie undone. His eyes, once full of the smug stillness I had come to expect, looked hollow. I didn't move, just leaned against the porch railing, arms crossed, the morning sun warm on my back. "Nana?" he said, voice low. "Can I talk to you?" I said nothing. He took that as a yes. He climbed the steps slowly, like a man approaching a confession. "She left," he said. "Brooke, about 3 weeks ago. She said she needed time to find herself. Took the car, most of the savings, and a suitcase full of shoes she never wears." I didn't blink. "She said I enabled her, that I let her get too used to taking things for granted." Still, I said nothing. He rubbed his neck, suddenly smaller than I remembered. "I didn't come to blame you. I came to say, I'm sorry. I saw what she was doing. I heard how she talked to you, and I didn't stop it." He paused, waited. I let him. "I wasn't raised that way," he added, almost to himself. "My mom would have smacked me upside the head if she saw how I let things happen." A faint smile tugged at my mouth. "Sounds like your mom had good sense." He chuckled, then sobered. "I've been staying on a friend's couch, looking for work, trying to piece things together." I finally looked at him fully, searching for performance. There was none, just tired eyes, and a man who looked like the scaffolding of his life had finally collapsed. "What do you want, Jordan?" I asked, gently. "Not money," he said quickly. "I swear. I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. For not throwing me out. For not yelling. For feeding us. For folding our clothes. For being what I never acknowledged." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. Not thick, not dramatic, just paper. Inside, a handwritten note. "You were always more than we deserved. I'm sorry." And under that, a small photo. It was me, on the old porch, Brooke in my lap at age 4. We were both laughing. Her hand was in my hair. Mine was on her back. I hadn't seen that picture in years. I held it, not like a relic, like a seed. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. Jordan stood. "If there's anything I can ever do—" "There is," I said, holding his gaze. "Live better. Treat people softer. And if you ever see Brooke again, tell her silence is not cruelty. It's a mirror. Some people just don't like what they see in it." He nodded, left without a fuss. I sat for a long while, photo in hand, wind stirring the edge of the porch. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt whole. And that, after everything, was more than enough. It was a Wednesday when Brooke came back, not with fury this time, not with entitlement, just with exhaustion wrapped around her shoulders like a too thin coat. I saw her through the window first, standing at the edge of the walkway, suitcase in one hand, phone in the other. She wasn't wearing sunglasses this time. Her face was bare, and her eyes searched the porch like someone hoping memory would be enough to buy entry. I didn't move. She climbed the steps, slowly, didn't knock right away, just stood in front of the door. Then, quietly, pressed the bell. I opened the screen door. She looked up at me, and her voice cracked before she even spoke. "I have nowhere to go." I waited. "I burned through everything," she said, voice shaking. "Jordan's gone. I maxed out the cards. She stopped, swallowed hard. "I thought I had time. I thought I could fix it." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You want me to fix it for you?" I said softly. "No," she whispered. "I want you to look at me. I want you to see I'm not the same." I studied her, not just the face, drawn and older than before, but the posture, the silence between her words, the way her hands fidgeted like someone unused to stillness. "You're not the same," I said. "But that doesn't mean I go back." Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't wipe them, just let them fall, quietly. "I treated you like a thing," she said, "like a faucet I could turn on and off, and you were a well. You gave until it hurt. You saw it as a gift with no bottom," I said. "But even wells run dry." "I know," she said. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know. I see it now, all of it. I see you." I believed her, but that wasn't the same as forgiveness with a key. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm not punishing you, but you don't get to come back just because the house is still standing. Some doors don't reopen, not because we hate, but because we finally learned to lock them." She nodded. Her hands shook now. "Then I'll go." She turned, gripping the suitcase. "Wait," I said. She stopped. I pulled from my pocket a slip of paper, a card. Simple, handwritten, no address, just a name. Haven House. A small place a few towns over, a place I'd quietly helped fund through a friend. Rooms for women rebuilding, no questions asked. "Tell them Margaret sent you," I said. "You'll get a bed, a meal, no judgment." Her breath caught. "Why would you do that?" she asked, eyes wide. "Because you're still my granddaughter," I said. "And because kindness isn't something I give when convenient. It's who I am." She stepped forward. For a second, I thought she might try to hug me. She didn't. She took the card, clutched it to her chest. "Thank you," she said. Then she walked down the path, suitcase rattling against the gravel. She didn't look back. I stood there until the wind turned cool, until the sun dipped low, until the porch light flickered on. Then I went inside. Boiled water, made tea. Sat in my chair with my shawl around my shoulders and the quiet humming around me like an old friend. The phone was beside me, face up. I picked it up, opened a blank message draft, and wrote, If you've ever been told your value is measured by how quiet you stay, or how much you give without question, know this. Silence isn't weakness. It's memory. And sometimes it's justice. If you've swallowed disrespect in the name of keeping peace, if you've poured yourself out for people who never looked back to thank you, then maybe you already understand. You are not too late. You are not too old, and you are not alone. Subscribe to Grandma True Stories. Here, we don't shout to be heard. We remember, we write, we reclaim. I hit send and took another sip of tea. Because the loudest thing I ever did was not scream. It was simply walking away and never explaining why.